Hello and welcome to Real Hi-Fi Help. How did we miss this in audio engineering? So, the myth is true. Double pull of cable on the minus pole generally helps a lot with our sound, making it better in every single way, as far as I can tell. And I also, I think originally I heard this from a technician when we were making a power cable for me. I bought a speaker cable used, and we then converted that speaker cable into a power cable, and because there were some extra threads in it. And then he said to me, "Oh yeah, let's just put that on the minus pole. That will make it a bit better, a bit more stable." And just thought, since then I thought, he's actually right. Sometimes when you do certain combinations of design, structure of the cable, thread types, if you make a double pull or slightly more of a pull, perhaps just 5-10% more of a pull on the minus pole, it's almost as if it acts as I wouldn't say a lifeline, but it's almost as if it helps get rid of a lot of the noise that you have in your system, stabilizing the sound. And I haven't till this day been able to find a negative from this yet. Now I believe that you of course have to use a lot of time on figuring out exactly how this works, and I think it's going to be different from cable to cable, system to system. But I've tested it, and I've heard from users online and some of my friends that double pull on the minus or slightly more metal thread on the minus pole somehow has a way of releasing the sound more in a more convincing way, where it kind of stabilizes the sound instead of it just goes push pull. So we can in theory, knowing this now, convert this theory over to power bars, amplifiers. We could in theory have a bigger minus pole on the transformer side, the transformer minus side, in theory. But again, this is very theoretical. So yeah, we should of course do what's legal, what's safe, what's the standard. So before you do this, you might want to consult with someone to make sure that it's safe. And check out this user, Pro Jacket. He was one of the users that confirmed this. I haven't tested I haven't done the test that he did, where you put it on the inside of a speaker. That sounds interesting. I just did it as a speaker cable downstairs on my second system, and I did notice that it's almost as if the speaker grew, so it became a 1CI speaker, halfway there towards a 2CE speaker, and a 2CE speaker is significantly more big and powerful and bass rich in sound. But it didn't turn it into a 2CE speaker. It just physically isn't possible. But that huge gap between the 1CI speaker and the 2CE was like significantly closed once I heard this modification. So these are the things that I've experienced, that what happens when you do this. There's just more time to unload the sound, meaning that it's less rushed. It's more pleasant, it's more rich, there's more of a bass, kicky type of feel. Volume is more stable, but funny enough, I have my CD player driving my my amplifier downstairs, Sugden A21A modified amplifier. But what I noticed was that the lowest volume was actually quite a bit higher than before, when I didn't have this feature. And I don't know why, but is that perhaps a small drawback? Yeah, I would say a small drawback, but sound quality wise, it's a lot better. So can you really call this a drawback? I mean, you just don't have a CD player that can regulate the sound to like a smaller sound level, if you know what I mean. It was nice having this before, where I could listen to music at a slightly lower volume, but sound wise, quality wise, structural part of the sound, just everything just gets more rich, more stable. And it just felt like, like the sidewalls came closer to the speakers, because the speakers that I have downstairs, there's like 2.5 meters to the sidewalls, and that's really bad, especially when you have a Fenderstein speaker. But that's what I can do in that room right here now. And it just sounded as if the sidewalls came like a meter closer on the left and the right, and that the system had been on for a couple of more hours. That's basically how it sounded like, and when you get these sidewalls coming closer to the speaker, it just feels as if you can more easily control the speaker, that it's not going in this like mode where it's just going nuts and going in this mode or that mode or that mode. It just was there to stabilize the sound. So just less hectic, less jumpy, less fragile, less wimpy. And it just as if it could breathe a bit more, the system, so it didn't get so tired. So yeah, basically what I'm talking about is minus connection here. So if this is a speaker cable here, we would then have, let's just say this is like 20 threads, and this is like 20 threads. What I'm talking about is that you just take one of these, and you just leave this alone, and then you just have an extra pull of this on top of this minus. So there's 40 threads here, like this big, and then you have 20 on this. And then you just place it on the minus on the amp, and then on the speaker. And it makes it quite a bit more interesting. And you can, of course, also like flip it, so you have it on the plus. But usually when you have it on the plus, the opposite happens. You get a more rushed type of powerful sound that doesn't settle as much. I don't like that. Perhaps some people do. Like if you have like a really swampy amplifier that's really struggling a lot, pulling that speaker, perhaps you could like that, having it on the plus instead of the minus. But yeah, if we had like a power cable here, then plus would be here, minus would be here, and this would be the earth connection. And a lot of these power cables, when you want to do it on a power cable, usually you only get three wires. So because you want to run it in a double pull configuration, you're going to have to put the minus and the plus together as one pole. So you use that as minus, and then you're going to use the other thing here for plus. And then you'll have to put like a small wire on the outside of the cable as a ground connection, and that I believe in general just makes amplifiers more rich, more organic, more natural, more settled, and it almost feels as if you've upgraded to an amplifier that's like one model above what you have currently. So that's nice. It just feels like there's bigger transformers in your amp and it's more stable. So that's basically all. And I this is a bit out there. This is a bit in the gray zone of hi-fi that we know. And it might be that I'm wrong. It might be that you just have to leave it at 50-50% in order to protect the gear. We don't know what this does, long term. But it might be that, signal cables will have to do that in 5% more on the minus pole, or 25% more on the power cables, or whatever. This is like cables is a very artsy thing in hi-fi where there's no real right and wrong. I was talking to my friend the other day, yesterday evening, and he was saying to me, some cables on his system just create a much better sound without it making a lot of sense. And he said to me, he usually experiences that the lower quality ones don't sound nearly as good as the more expensive ones. He says, without a doubt. But he says there's also like this thing where the cable just has to match the current system that it's on. So if you put something that's too good for that system on like a CD player or amplifier or whatever, that better cable will most likely reveal too much. And he said that he can't explain it, but he made some cables that were made with some components that weren't the best in the world, and when he tried to use these better components, often he would get a bias in the sound that he didn't like. So it's hard to then say, is that a better cable that he made? Perhaps we will never really know, because you have to test it on a lot of systems to really know what's the cable's fault, what's the system's fault. So it's very much out there and left to interpretation. But I'm just saying, there is something about this, something huge, really huge, about having a double pull on the minus. And I think that we should perhaps try this, and see what really happens. And I have to warn you guys, if you try doing this stuff with different types of cables, different lengths, one is copper, one is silver, they've got a huge difference in resistance. You could, in theory, damage some gear. So just be aware of that. This is a bit far out there, but there is a huge amount of potential, really a huge amount of potential. And I've done that on my system. All the power cables on my sound equipment are with a double pull on the minus pole, all the power cables. And because of that, you have to realize that because of that, I am now able to use power cables that are a lot shorter. And when you're able to use power cables that are a lot shorter, when you're getting into that 1 meter short power cable area, you're able to tune into a level of detail that is really quite a bit higher than listening to a normal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 meter power cable. Because you just get this like immediate power coupling, but it sets a standard that is really high, so that your equipment now, it expects more of your equipment, and if it can't deliver, it can easily reveal stuff that you don't want to hear. Then you can easily hear how crappy your gear is. So that's why I like doing it. Double pull and minus pull enables me to go from 2 meter power cables to 1 meter power cables, stabilizing that, that more detail that I get, cementing it. So yeah, that's what I've done, and just do what's safe, do what's legal, consult a technician perhaps, and yeah, this has been a very good insight into what's just around the corner of like a huge potential that you could open up for in your system. And I think that especially when you start dealing with these normal preamps, normal DACs, normal speakers, amps, whatever, there's often this thinnish, vague type of sound that's perhaps a bit harsh, and this could really help with that harshness, making your transistor amp feel more like a warmish tube amp, but without any negative side effects. So yeah, if you guys, for example, have tried this, leave a comment below, or tell me what you guys think. And yeah, try and keep it, keep it constructive, if there's any criticism, but I'd like to hear from you guys what you think about it. So this is me logging off. Have a nice day.